Okay, I'm going for screen share here. Let me make it very clear in the beginning only. At first, let me officially welcome you all, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on this topic, that how to choose our optional subjects logically. And then let me make it clear to you people that this is not about any specific subject. No, I'm not going to talk about, or I'm not going to promote any particular optional here. This is going to be a general discussion that how normally, given the situation, the way the examination is conducted, how to logically choose an optional. What are factors to be taken into consideration? And what are the things which should be avoided? Right? However, before starting the process, let me raise a question here. The question is about significance. This is going to be the first topic of my discussion. Right? I'm going to look at the significance of optional in mains examination. Okay. See, in mains, as we understand, what all topics are there for us to appear in mains. I'm not talking about the optional subjects. I'm talking about what all papers one has to appear in. The first thing that we have is the essay paper. Second, the 4 papers of GS. Then the 2 papers of an optional. Then the 2 language papers. Right? Out of these 2 language papers, they are of qualifying nature. The marks of these language papers, they would not be taken into consideration while deciding one's rank, or while deciding one's, or whether the person has qualified for interview or not. One just has to qualify in these papers. Right? On the other hand, well, so these are the papers there, these 4 papers. Out of them, in the essay paper, normally what we see is a kind of average marking to take place. Normally, a candidate, they would be securing something around, if they're writing proper essays, they're expected to secure something in between 135 to 95. So the whole play in essay paper is in between 95 to 135, an average bit of marks. In GS, in the 4 papers of GS, paper 1, in fact, why just paper 1? All the papers, they would be giving us practically average marks. If a candidate is getting any advantage in any particular paper of GS, that person would be securing at a max 10 marks extra than an average candidate, not more than that. Let me show you how things would be going on in the GS papers. Paper 1, on an average, what we expect is that a candidate would be securing something around 110 marks. It would be actually varying between something around 105 to 115. In GS mains paper 2, polity, international relations, governance, social justice, This is a paper we study the most. This is a paper in which I'm quite sure most of the aspirants, they consider themselves to be experts. Believe me, this is a paper where you'll be scoring the least. We have seen marks even going down up to 45 at times. 34, 45, these are the marks that people they secure in this paper. Why? Most of us, we do not know how to write answers, how to approach these answers. You may say there are so many online platforms today teaching us how to write answers. What they're teaching us is mostly crap. Okay. In most of the cases, those candidates who themselves have not been able to secure or who themselves have not been able to crack the examination, who themselves they do not know how to write answers, they teach you how to write answers. Quite often than not, I have seen in platforms where they are asking you just to write down the points. I assure you, while writing an answer, if you just note down the points, you're not going to get a marks if you don't elaborate the points properly. Then even I have seen on platforms where, or why just platforms, even faculties, who suggest just to draw a diagram. A diagram without elaboration is not sufficient enough. If you're drawing a diagram, please do care to elaborate what you've drawn in the diagram. Maybe in a few lines only, but you need to do that. Merely drawing a diagram is not sufficient enough. But often than not, we see our so-called guides telling us all these things. And yes, the result is we suffering. A student suffers. Believe me, this is not the fault of the platform. Why? They're there to sell. They would be selling whatever they can. It's for you to decide what all you're about to consume and what not. Whether you are making an informed choice or not, that's your point. ये आपको समझना है कि आप वहां से क्या क्या खरीद रहे हो, क्या ले रहे हो उनसे. Right? So, yes, in GS mains paper 2, we have seen quite often than not marks going down as low as 34, 45, these kind of marks. However, on an average, the marks remains something around 90 to 105. That's the average marks that one scores in this paper. Right? The next one, GS mains paper 3. In GS mains paper 3, normally a person still scores considerably nicely, something to the tune of 80 to 120. This one varies. And again, the last paper, that is the ethics, integrity, and aptitude paper. Again, I'm looking at a paper which will be giving us some kind of average marks. Something to the tune of 110 again. So practically what I'm understanding is that whether essay paper, whether the GS papers, they all would be giving us average marks. They would not be differentiating between a good candidate and an average candidate because most of us will be standing on the same platform. So someone scores a bit more in paper 1, but the person loses on paper 3, loses marks on paper 3. Now, so on an average, these papers, they're going to put everyone in the same basket. Clear? So what is going to create the difference between a successful candidate and someone who is not able to make the cut? That's where comes optionals. optional subjects are the ones which create the difference between a successful candidate and someone who's a failure. Let me warn you here, you're looking at one examination where we are looking at cutthroat competition. ये वो एग्जामिनेशन है जहां पे हम लोग बार बार एक अजीबोगरीब लेवल का कंपटीशन देखते हैं. जैसे I'm giving you an example of 2013. 2013 बैच, मेरे कुछ जूनियर्स उस बैच में they got selected. 3 people whom I knew: the 269th ranker, the 399th ranker, and the 666th ranker. इन तीनों को मैं जानता हूं, right? I'm going to discuss the difference in their marks. The difference in the marks of 269th ranker and 399th ranker. (41 marks). Difference of how many ranks? Difference of 130 ranks for mere 41 marks. And the difference between 269th rank and 66th rank, कितना difference, कितने marks का difference था? The difference was of 128 marks. So for a mere 128 marks, I'm looking at a difference of how many ranks? I'm looking at a difference of 396 ranks or 397 ranks maybe. That's the level of competition I'm looking at. Here, every mark counts, right? And in such an examination where we are facing such cutthroat competitions, what is the primary tool to score high, especially in mains? That primary tool is the optional papers. The 2 papers of the optional, where we do see, quite often and not हम लोग देखे हैं ये चीज, that in certain optionals, including both the papers, a person, both papers means paper 1 and paper 2 of the optional, out of 500, a person scores 120. And we have also seen a person to score something around 310 out of 500. So this is the area where I'm going to look at the difference getting created between a successful candidate and someone who's not being able to make the cut. That's where lies the significance of the optional. That's why choosing optional carefully is so significant. Believe me, there used to be a time, we have seen this till 2012, 13. Okay, 13 means not from 13 onwards. The examination of 2012 means 2012. Till then, we have seen this tendency where a number of candidates, they used to choose optionals like Pali, Sanskrit, why? There was an understanding that these optionals, they help the candidate to secure more marks. Well, there were logics behind this. We'll be talking about those things later on. But yes, we have seen candidates, in fact, 2012, the 70th ranker. This is 70th ranker of 2012 batch. The person scored 470 out of 600 in Pali. 470 out of 600. Just imagine. And given this one optional, or given this one thing, the person could secure that 70th rank. His marks in GS, his marks in other optional, during those times, there used to be two optional papers. The marks in the GS, the marks in the other optional, they were average or even below average. Just one optional helped this candidate to secure his qualification. That's how significant optionals are. You can easily understand if a person is securing 120 out of 500 and another person is securing 310 out of 500, the difference is of 190 marks actually. Right? This way we have seen the differences getting created. And the difference is getting created because of the optional subject. Okay, let's proceed from here. Now, so you can easily understand why this craze about optionals, or this concern about choosing the right optional. Okay, it is in this backdrop that we need to look at certain better, or some of the better performing optionals, if I may say. Yes, even today we do see that some optionals, they do perform better than the other optionals. Some optionals, they provide regular results than other optionals. Please try and understand. This is the concern of me here. Why some optionals, they perform better than the other optionals. Okay. Please try to understand that, yes, we have seen, say for example, one particular optional, say medical science. I'm seeing in one particular year, the topper of the examination, he cracked the examination with the help of one particular optional. Say that's medical science, or say that's physics. Right? On the other hand, out of say in that particular year, 800 candidates were selected. Out of 800, a total of 10 candidates may be having that optional. The topper is from that particular optional, but out of 800, a total of only 10 candidates, they had this optional. That's one scenario. And the second scenario is, out of the top 10, two candidates, they had this optional, say optional B or optional A. Out of the top 10, two candidates, they had this optional. And out of the 800 candidates, maybe something to the tune of 90 people who had this optional. Tell me, which is a better optional here? Obviously, this optional A. Why? That particular optional with which more number of candidates, they are being able to perform better. Naturally, I would admit that this is a particular optional which helps more. Maybe with one or two optionals, say here I'm looking at optional B. Why to name any optional? Say with optional B, I'm seeing the topper with optional B. Well, the the topper became the topper because of his personal attributes, because of his personal traits, because maybe the way he planned his preparation process, the way he put in his effort, all these factors are to be taken into consideration. Now, every individual is different. Being every individual different, we cannot expect, any Tom, Dick, and Harry to emulate or to perform the way one topper is performing. So, though the topper is from that particular optional, that does not mean that this optional is good for everyone. On the other hand, the optional with which more number of candidates are securing the examination, are securing a result in this examination, or qualifying this examination, I would obviously be assuming that to be a safe optional, with which it is easier to perform. This factor should always be taken into consideration. This is the most important factor while choosing an optional. So please, just by looking at a topper, don't decide your optional. You are not that topper. You are not that individual. There are a number of differences between you and that particular individual. आप दोनों एक नहीं हो. So the first and foremost thing, do not try to copy anyone. Make your strategy, prepare your strategy based on your own ease, not by copying others. अपना strategy खुद अपने सहूलियत के हिसाब से बनाइए, दूसरों को देख के, दूसरों को कॉपी करके नहीं. Clear? And as a result, choosing the optional should also be following the same pattern. This is one major mistake which we do see candidates to do. They quite often than not, what they do is they try to follow the topper. They try to copy the topper. अच्छा वो topper उनका ये particular optional था, so I'm going to choose this optional only. That particular topper had this optional, fine. I'm going to choose this optional only. Why? Choose your optional based on the way you are, based on the subject with which you are comfortable, not by copying the topper. Please do not do that. Okay. Now, normally, while choosing the optional, we do see candidates making certain mistakes. I'm going to take up those mistakes at first, the common mistakes which a candidate they do. What are these mistakes? These are the ones. An emotional affinity somehow works with the subjects of our graduation. Okay, this particular subject, some XYZ, this subject was there in my graduation, so I'm going to choose this subject because this is the subject of my graduation. This may have had been the subject of your graduation, does not mean that this subject, it performs better here. Right? So a subject was there in your graduation, just because of that reason, if you try to choose that subject, you're making a very big mistake. Similarly, familiarity with the subject. Quite often than not, we see people to say that, well, I'm familiar with that subject. I don't know the other subject. Maybe you don't know the other subject. Maybe you're familiar with one particular subject called subject A. Maybe this subject was there in your graduation, and that's why you're familiar with this subject. But maybe it's very difficult to score in UPSC with subject A. Or maybe there is not sufficient study material in respect to subject A in UPSC. Maybe there is hardly any good guide available on that particular subject. Unavailability of a good guide. Or maybe you're not at all, you might be familiar with the subject, but that doesn't mean that you're comfortable with the subject. There were a number of subjects in your graduation. Say, for example, do you really think that anyone today in today's time, anyone they have Pali or Sanskrit in their graduation? No, na. That's why see today when the UPSC came out with this particular notion that you can only choose the language papers like Pali and Sanskrit if you have them in your graduation. Yes, UPSC has made this a point. Okay, and as a result, immediately we saw that craze for these optionals died down. But tell me about those candidates who used to crack the examination with Pali or Sanskrit during those times, during the earlier times. We have seen number of candidates playing smart, doing all these things and selecting these subjects, Pali, Sanskrit, subjects like this. Do you really think those people they had these subjects in their graduation? I can tell you about this 666 ranker here. 666 of 2013 batch. 12-13 batch actually. 12-13 batch of UPSC. 13 batch means he secured his rank in 2013 in the result which came out in 2013. He had Sanskrit, but he was from the field of commerce. He had Sanskrit as one of his optionals, but the guy was a CA. Right? So if he had thought about that, I'm not familiar with the subject called Sanskrit, then, and yes, Sanskrit helped him. No doubt Sanskrit helped him. So familiarity alone is not the parameter to be chosen. We do rely on these parameters, but these are not the parameters on whom we can singly depend upon. Yes, familiarity is a factor, but doesn't mean that because of familiarity only, you'll be choosing one particular subject. No, don't do that. There are a number of other aspects to be taken into consideration along with the notion of familiarity. Yes, familiarity is a matter. No doubt it is a matter. But there are other parameters, other factors as well to be taken into consideration. Similarly, number of people, number of us, they think that from this particular subject, I'm going to get benefit in GS. Well, that subject may be giving you benefit in GS, but the syllabus of that subject is vast, is extremely vast. Is it ultimately of any benefit to you? Maybe the subject is covering a small part of GS, but the syllabus of the subject is extremely vast. You tell me, what are you doing? Because GS alone has an extremely vast syllabus. Simultaneously, just because of the benefit you may get from the subject in GS, you're choosing another subject with extremely vast syllabus. Is it right? I don't know. So there goes the logic. Clear? Simultaneously comes this particular notion. Yes, number of us, we say, okay, this particular optional is going to help me during the time of work. While in civil services, this optional is going to help me out. Well, that's why they're going to train you. That's why they have a process of training. You don't have to consider about training and about job here while going for the examination. While going for the examination, your objective should be how to clear, how to crack the examination. Forward planning is good, but not that much forward planning that you, without even getting selected, you start thinking about what all is going to help you once you are selected. But for that, get selected first. Don't choose an optional because it is going to help you in your job. We have seen people depending on these logics. This particular subject is going to help me tremendously during my job. Are you in job already? Are you in the civil services already? No, na? You're in the process of cracking the examination. So think of that first. We don't consider the immediate task in hand. Rather, we start thinking about what will happen way later. That's what we do. So these logics, they actually don't hold good. Clear? And out of them, yes, more or less, especially the first two logics. Why first two? First three logics, or all the three logics, the initial three logics, they play tremendous role. Number of people we have seen depending on these logics. Don't. These logics alone cannot form the base or cannot form the basis for selection of an optional. If you do so, what you will do is you'll be making your job harder. Please try and understand that. Then what to do, how to proceed, what is to be looked into. My suggestion is look for these factors. What are these? Number one, comfortability with the subject. You may not have had known the subject previously. Maybe during your graduation times, you were not exposed to this subject, but still you can be comfortable with the subject. As a human being, you are growing all the time. Now, how to understand whether I'm comfortable with the subject or not? How to understand the comfortability factor? Is there any option to choose this, to decide this? Yes, there are. How? I would say go to the website of NCERT. Okay, go to the website of NCERT, ncert.nic.in. Download the books of class 11, 12 of that particular subject. Go through those books. While going through these books, these PDFs of the books, while going through them, if you feel comfortable with the subject, that means you can choose this subject. Again, be rational. Be rational in your decision making. Most of the time, we are not rational in our decision making. Be rational in your decision making. That's the first thing we need to do. Right? That's why I'm saying that before you choose a subject, do one thing. Go to the website of NCERT, download the relevant books on this subject, the relevant books of class 11 and class 12 on this particular subject from the website of NCERT. Download the PDFs. Go through those PDFs, go through those books, PDFs of those books. If you feel comfortable, if you feel that yes, I am feeling comfortable with this subject, choose this. Number two, again, look at the size of the syllabus of the subject. Why? Because already you have a vast syllabus in GS. You have a vast syllabus to be covered in GS. So please consider those subjects with smaller syllabuses. That's where the trick was played by Pali and Sanskrit, you know. They had the smallest of the syllabuses. Clear? So choose a subject with smaller syllabus because you already have something huge to cover, something extremely vast to cover. Now look into the easy availability of quality study material. Please, I'll be highlighting this particular term, quality study material. It's extremely important. Why? Today, in the era of information revolution, we do not have dearth of material on any particular subject. We have loads of material. You go online and you will get loads of material. But are they quality materials? Are these materials time trusted? Are these materials any authentic materials, or are they just some rubbish compiled by a few people? It matters. A quality study material can truly boost your preparation process. Because if you're getting access to quality material, that material will be smaller in size or smaller in quantity. And even going through that small amount of material, that relatively or considerably smaller material, you'll be able to crack this examination. You'll be able to score more marks in this examination. That's where the quality material plays a role. Simultaneously comes availability of trustworthy guidance. Yes, again, this factor, trustworthy, it matters. Because today, what does it take to open an online platform and to start selling rubbish? Number of you here, you might be knowing that I also teach one optional subject, right? I'm intentionally not naming the subject here because I'm here not to promote that subject. I'm here to talk about the logic of choosing an optional, right? But let me share my own experience. On one particular day in the class, I was teaching one particular concept. One of my student, he doubted it. He said, it seems that there is something else as well. And he said something about that. Okay, let me tell you the thing. I'm a faculty of sociology. Okay. And in the class, I was teaching about Karl Marx and his discussions. Okay. While teaching Karl Marx, one of my students, he raised the point that there are the three laws of dialectics. Sir, you're not including the three laws of dialectics here. I was really confused and I asked him that why should I be including the three laws of dialectics here? Then that particular candidate told me that he had previously taken admission in another particular platform, and there someone he was writing answer and he was giving his answer to be checked, and there some Gyani Baba told him that in that particular answer the three laws of dialectics are also to be included. The three laws of dialectics are not even given by Karl Marx. They're given by Friedrich Engels. The Gyani Baba who talked about, he doesn't even know that. And the three laws of dialectics were actually talked about or actually discussed even after the death of Marx. So why should I, while discussing Marx, include someone else's concept? I'm talking about Marx's concept, no? That's what happens. Because there are so many, anyone becomes knowledgeable, right? And they start selling whatever crap they can. Be careful, guys. There is a problem about trustworthy guidance. Go for those people whom you can trust. Go for those people whom you think that they are trustworthy. Because it is a factor, it is a matter here. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry, they try to become one expert in subjects here. Okay, that's the problem. Simultaneously, choose from those subjects which has been providing regular results. This is very important. The first point I took up, that don't copy the toppers just because one particular topper, he had this subject, and with this particular subject he topped the examination. That does not mean that you can also top the examination with that particular subject. So don't try to copy a topper. While choosing a subject, please take into consideration all these factors. Clear? Simultaneously, again and again, I'll be saying this, that be rational, be sensible while choosing a subject. Don't be carried away by emotions. This was a subject of my graduation, or I'm familiar with this subject. These are emotional factors. Don't get carried away by them. Familiarity matters, but what matters more is comfortability with the subject. You might be familiar with a subject, but you may not be comfortable with that subject. Say all of us, we have been, we have studied mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology in our life sciences, in our school days, right? That does not make us comfortable with all of these subjects. Someone among us may not be comfortable with mathematics. Someone among us may not be comfortable with physics. Someone among us may not be comfortable with chemistry. Someone among us may not be comfortable with history. Someone among us may not be comfortable with life sciences, biology. But we are familiar with these subjects, na? So familiarity alone is not the factor to be considered. Along with familiarity, what also should be taken into consideration is the comfortability factor, whether you're comfortable with that particular optional or not. Right? So please be rational, please be logical while choosing your optionals. Here I'm doing something which is normally a bit uncharacteristic of me. I'm sharing those particular optionals with which we have seen more number of candidates to secure the selection. Normally, I prefer not naming any optional, not promoting any optional for that matter. Right? It should be someone's choice, but for your betterment, so that you can easily do things. That's why I'm just discussing about a few optionals, a few subjects with which we have seen more number of candidates to secure the result, right? Say, for example, in the recent times, we have seen subjects like public administration, sociology, geography, political science, history to give good results, right? Yes, all of these 5 subjects which I have named, they all have been providing results consistently. There's a consistency factor to be seen. But while talking about these particular subjects, let me mention that yes, 3 subjects here: geography, history, and political science, they have extremely vast syllabus, right? They have extremely vast syllabus. On the other hand, in the recent times, we have also seen that public administration, especially the scoring in public administration, has been a matter into question, has been a matter of question. Number of worthy candidates, they could not secure selection. Yes, being faculties, we when we talk to you, when we get into when we actually encounter you, we do realize whether you have the staffs or not. Number of people, we do realize that yes, there is potential in this particular candidate, but even then we do realize that given this optional, maybe that candidate is not being able to secure the result. Quite often than not, we face these things. In recent times, we have seen, at least I have seen, number of candidates whom I felt are candidates with potential, but they were continuously facing difficulty because of public administration, especially the scoring pattern in public administration, the way scoring is being done. Okay, so that's why I talked about these negative points as well. It's not my job to give you only the positive points. I gave you the negative points as well. Similarly, in respect to sociology, let me tell you, the syllabus of sociology is really small, no doubt about it. But at the same point of time, paper 2 of sociology is very dynamic. You have to be on your toes in respect to current affairs. So if you're choosing sociology, be careful that yes, you have to be on your toes about what's happening in and around you continuously and how that is affecting the society to understand that, the impact. Because time and again, as a faculty of sociology, let me warn you that while writing answers, what is more expected of you is if you can give examples from the real life, from what is happening in and around you. Don't just talk about the theories. Give examples and give examples from what is happening in and around you. If you can relate that, you'll actually be able to prove how much you've understood the concepts, how much conceptual clarity you have. And obviously you'll be securing better marks in that respect or that way. So in case of sociology, the negative point is that you have to be on your toes in respect to current affairs, right? So these are the factors which are to be taken into consideration while choosing the optionals. But then again, let me tell you, these 5 optionals, yes, in the recent times, these are the 5 optionals which are providing results, which are giving results consistently, relatively consistently. Clear? So that's all that I had to say. Now, if any of you have any question, you can unmute yourself. I've given you the choice to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and ask questions accordingly.
Sir, please open the first point you wrote on the board.
Whiteboard, no? Sure.
Yes.
I was talking about the significance of an optional in mains. See, mains is still in your hands. How much you're going to score in mains is still in your hands. Interview is not in your hands. The 275 marks of interview, they depend on number of factors, and most of these are beyond your control. But you can ensure how much you can score in mains. That is always in your hands. So I would always be suggesting you that score more marks in mains so that there is less dependency on interview. This is something which I'll always be suggesting you, which I'll always be telling you. Okay. Anything else, guys? There is Jitin, there is Pranesh, there is Vishesh. Any question, anything that you people may want to know? If not, then I would prefer to end the discussion here itself. I wish I have been able to provide you some idea of value, right? Please, it's a genuine advice to you people that be logical, be rational while choosing an optional. Don't be carried away by emotions, right, guys? Thank you all. Hope you take advantage of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you